I met pain when I was just 12 years old. That's when I got my first period. And pain was a monthly visitor. But after the pandemic, I started experiencing her daily. And it became something that was happening too often, way too often. It became so bad, I knew that as much as I'd like to be a strong, independent woman, it was time to see some doctors. I went to doctors in 3 different countries, actually, in Indonesia, in Israel, in New York. I saw gastros, endocrinologists. I saw all different types of doctors. I did colonoscopies, a million ultrasounds, and plethora of blood tests. And yet they all came back perfectly normal. You're fine, they told me. I definitely didn't feel fine. I was riddled with pain, whether that be getting out of bed too fast, pain, eating the wrong thing, pain, working out, pain, and even during sex, pain. I was losing my mind, and I finally ended up in New York and saw a doctor, and he's like, I think we need to do an MRI. Finally, someone had a good idea. He did the MRI and he looked at it and he told me, you need surgery. Surgery? I never had surgery in my life. And within 6 months, I was in the OR on the table, and they were performing endometriosis excision surgery. Now, post surgery, biopsy of the lesions that they removed confirmed I had endometriosis, a chronic pelvic condition with no cure. And while they did remove 11 lesions for the most part, and any other regular surgery would create a lot of relief for that woman, I was yet again an outlier. Not only was I riddled with scar tissue and still experiencing chronic pelvic pain, but they had nicked a nerve, and I found myself bedridden for 3 months, unable to walk. I was losing my mind. I did everything I thought I was supposed to do, and I was in bed in pain. And at that point, I really didn't know how I was going to proceed with my life. But through the process of proceeding, I surprised even myself. And what I came to realize, and what I invite you to recognize, is pain, all pain, can be very real, can feel real, and be real, but it doesn't need to be a central part of your identity. You can still experience pain and have joy be available. That's what I realized. So, hello, my name is Racheli. I was born in New York, but I grew up all over the world. And in this process of, chronic pain and having this be such a huge part of my life, I remember when I finally got the endometriosis diagnosis, they told me, oh, you're an endo warrior. That's what we call your kind, endo warrior. I didn't want to be a warrior. I didn't want to be an inspiration. I didn't want to have more responsibility. I was tired. I was tired. And people would tell me, oh, you're feeling this way and that, but you're in control of your life. You get to decide your destiny. You get to make life however you want it. That was more work. I just wanted to rest. And as things were coming to a head, I realized I was getting to a very dangerous place in my mind where I knew that something needed to change. Not because I had hope that something might be different, but because I really got to a place that I was so nervous that if something didn't change, I might not make it till the end of the world, end of the year. And in this moment, multiple things came to me at once. So number one, I remember speaking to a friend and she's like, what brings you joy? And I'm like, joy? I'm in pits of depression. I can't think about joy. And she's like, well, if you don't know what brings you joy, then anything that sparks your interest, you see something online, you read about something, whatever the case is, try it out. Try as many things as you can until that thing clicks. A thing that you'll know is joy is something that doesn't take much from you, that feels easy, that just is easy to do and takes your mind away. The second thing that I experienced was I started reading Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural. He speaks a lot about the mind body connection. And that's not that pain is all in your head, and though sometimes it feels like that is what he's saying, but rather that your mind and your subconscious influences your physical body. And so not only can you use your mind as a tool for healing, but also your brain doesn't know what's real and what's not. And so eventually, if I tell myself I am healed, and if I act on I am healed, that will soon become my reality, or part of my reality. And the third thing that I did, I took myself on a journey to Brazil to sit with ayahuasca, which is a very powerful psychedelic plant medicine. And in this journey, not only did I purge, it does cause you to throw up. And I could literally see myself throwing up the lesions. But one of the other things that came through to me was that I needed to release this identity of being a sick person. It had become my entire being because it felt like it was my entire being. I felt pain every single day. And so that became who I was. But in order to move through it and move past it, I had to release this identity around it. Through this process, even though the pain felt real, and it was real, as I continued to say, I knew that life can be so much bigger than that. And when I stopped organizing my life around fixing myself and listening to a song that goes, "Your purpose is not healing," I was able to start integrating joy in my life. And joy is a practice. It isn't an end game. It isn't, oh, I'm going to be happy and then everything will work out. Or, and when I get there, I'll be happy. It's the practice of being joyful. And last year I decided to take my life back. And what that looked like for me, as someone who finds joy in travel, after I had this ayahuasca journey, I realized I wasn't ready to go back to New York, and I took myself to hike Machu Picchu. And it was the first day of my period, and the first day of my period would usually be a day that is spent in bed, clutching onto the walls, holding on for dear life as pain racks my body. And this time I pushed through. I climbed the mountain and sometimes fell to my knees and crawled at points in pain, but I made it to the top. And later in the year, I went to Mexico and I celebrated with friends and remember what it felt like to have sunshine on my face and be with humans I adored. And later in the year, I went to Bali and I did a lot of holistic healing and took a break from the doctors and what they were telling me I was doing or not doing. But the most exciting part of my year was actually I competed in a high rocks race in Australia. And now high rocks is a race that combines running and CrossFit activities. So you have to run 8 kilometers. And after each kilometer, you have to do a functional training activity. So that could be 100 wall balls, throwing a heavy ball onto the wall, or pushing a sled of 100 kilos for 50 meters, or lunging with a huge sandbag on your back. And so not only did I now have a goal and showing up for myself, even when I was pushing through pain and it was super difficult and I didn't want to, right? But also the high intensity training that I had to do for that was activating my pain. Now, I'm just going to take a little side note. One of the extra special things that I did for this race that gave it even more purpose, so adding the purpose on the joy, was I also ended up raising thousands of dollars and speaking about this project for the Endometriosis Foundation of America. So that made it even more special. And again, in this process of pushing through, I really learned what I now call sustainable devotion. Now, this isn't discipline. This isn't a list of wellness things, the journal and the meditate and the this and the that and everything that I need to do in order to be healed, better, pain-free, but rather small, sustainable steps that I can take in order for the devotion of my well-being. And also, sometimes that means pushing through the pain and pushing through that discomfort level and pushing as far as I can go. And sometimes that means pushing until the pain and taking a rest. Both of them are devotion. Because when you stop identifying as someone that is broken, the world opens to endless possibilities. One of my clients once shared with me that as she was working on herself, her baby became more calm. And she realized that as she regulated her nervous system, her baby felt it too. And then someone else came to me and told me that her relationship with her partner became much better after she started working on herself, not because she was working actively on her relationship with her partner, but rather because they saw her working on herself, and that made their relationship better. This kind of work, where it hopefully doesn't feel like work because it comes from a place of joy, even in the moments of such deep darkness that life feels so impossible, this can really, really give you a second lease on life. When you can detach from the identity of being broken, of being in pain, and you can acknowledge it because it does exist, but not let it define you, it really allows you to come into a new being of how you navigate and live in this world. So one of the ways that you can get started and figure out what is this joy, which was part of my process in the beginning, is really just sitting down for yourself, journaling, opening a note on your phone app, and start listing out 10 things that are your joy. And these can be things that you do right now that bring you joy. These can be things in the future that you would like to do. These could also be, like for me, fitness, things that were in my past that I knew brought me a lot of peace and a lot of joy. And I wasn't able to, and I wanted to get to a place where I could. Now, these things can also be as big or as small as you want them. They could be going outside and getting some sunshine every single morning. It could be reading. And it can be, if you're an adventure lover like me, it could be motorcycling across Morocco or skydiving. It can be as big or small as you like. And also remember the sustainable devotion. Some days that's putting the book by your bedside table and hoping that you get to read a little bit of it. Some days it's, okay, I promised myself I was going to read more. I'm just going to read a page before I pass out. And some days it's really carving out that time to sit and read a full chapter. So let that list, those 10 things, be a guide to guide that life force, even when the hardship times come on. Those small, tangible, little things that you can integrate into your life, and let that be your guiding force instead of the pain. What I wish for you, and what I wish for you to take away from all of this saying, that I still have good days and bad days. To be honest, just speaking and the nerves of speaking, I can feel the little fire in my pelvis as the emotion sends blood flow, and hopefully it doesn't turn into a full pain attack. But that if you are someone who is tired of the pain and ready to feel alive again, whether that be emotional pain or physical pain, inflammatory pain or autoimmune pain, especially if you are a woman that suffers from endometriosis, adenomyosis, EDS, POTS, PCOS, and so many other autoimmune and pelvic and uterine issues that plague us as women, please, I hope you hear my story. And if you can take away one thing, is that you're more than just managing your symptoms. You're meant to lead a life of joy, to live a life hopefully free of pain. And if the darkness does come, surrender to the darkness and blossom to the light, because the joy can live alongside the pain. Thank you.